There was a time when bread didn't make people sick, a time when a single loaf could sustain a laborer through a 14-hour day, or keep a peasant alive through the harshest winter. That bread was medieval sourdough, acting more like a superfood than the soft industrial loaves we eat today. So why doesn't your body trust modern bread the same way? What changed so dramatically that the food of life became the food so many struggle to digest? To find out, we have to step back into a world without preservatives, without commercial yeast, and without the industrial shortcuts that rewrote what bread even is. Medieval bread was slow, alive, and created through a process we've almost completely forgotten. This is the story of how bread lost its power, and to understand it, we first need to meet the living heart of medieval baking, the sourdough starter, the tiny ecosystem that kept entire communities fed. Long before factories existed, bread was a living culture, a mixture of wild yeasts and friendly bacteria gathered from the air, the grain, and even the baker's hands. This was the only way bread could rise, and every loaf depended on what we now call a sourdough starter. Medieval families guarded their starters like treasure. Some were kept alive for decades, even generations, feeding entire communities. What people didn't understand scientifically, they relied on daily. Slow fermentation transformed the dough. Overnight, microbes broke down the grain, softened fibers, transformed proteins, and released minerals. The result wasn't just bread, it was a biological upgrade modern shortcuts can't replicate. Medieval bread didn't need a healthy label. For most people, it supplied over half of daily calories, sometimes as much as 80%. It had to sustain long labor, harsh winters, and scarce seasons, and slow sourdough fermentation made that possible. But fermentation was only part of the story. The grain itself was different, grown in fields unlike ours today. And that's where flour comes in. To see why medieval sourdough bread was so powerful, we need to step into the mill house and watch whole grain transformed into flour that was alive, complete, and untouched. When flour was whole, alive, and untouched. Step into a medieval mill house where heavy stones turned day and night, grinding whole grain into flour without removing a single part of it. Nothing was added and nothing was taken away. The bran, the germ, the natural oils, and the vitamins all stayed exactly where they belonged. The flour that came out of those stones was fresh, alive with enzymes, rich in minerals, and dense with fiber. Modern white flour couldn't be more different. Roller mills strip away the bran and the germ, the most nutritious parts of the grain leaving behind little more than starch. After that, the flour is bleached, stored for months, and finally enriched with synthetic vitamins to replace only a fraction of what was lost. Those added nutrients aren't a bonus, they're a correction. They're necessary precisely because the flour has been emptied of almost everything that once made it nourishing. A medieval baker wouldn't recognize the flour we use today, and their bodies certainly wouldn't react to it the way ours do. Between slow fermentation and whole grain milling, medieval sourdough bread had two innate advantages we no longer have. The grain remained complete, and the dough had time to transform. But everything shifted once bread became industrialized. The change was so profound that modern bread and medieval sourdough bread are, in many ways, two completely different foods. The Industrial Revolution that broke bread. For thousands of years, bread was made the same way, slow, alive, and nutrient-rich. Then the Industrial Revolution changed everything. As cities grew, demand for cheap, fast food exploded. Factories prioritized speed over tradition, and sourdough fermentation couldn't keep up. The first major shift was roller milling in the 1870s, which processed huge quantities of grain quickly, but stripped away bran, germ, and most vitamins and minerals. The second was commercial yeast in the late 1800s, allowing bread to rise in 1 or 2 hours instead of 12 to 24. Eliminating the long microbial transformation that made bread digestible. The third shift introduced additives and preservatives, dough conditioners, bleaching agents, softeners, and mold inhibitors, all designed for efficiency, not health. In less than a century, bread went from a slow, nutrient-rich, biologically active food to a streamlined industrial product. Factories adapted instantly, but human bodies didn't. Our systems still expected bread like that of our ancestors, the bread that fueled labor, supported civilizations, and nourished communities. Instead, it was gone, replaced by a fast, sterile loaf that no longer aligned with our biology. And that mismatch between modern bread and our biology is exactly why so many people now feel betrayed by what they eat. You've probably heard people say, "Bread makes me tired," "It upsets my stomach," or "I feel hungry again an hour later." These complaints aren't random. They reflect how modern bread has changed. Traditional bread was fermented slowly. Sourdough microbes had time to break down gluten and starch. Modern bread uses fast-rising commercial yeast. This leaves gluten mostly intact and shifts the work to your digestive system. Refined flour makes the problem worse. It digests very quickly and spikes blood sugar. Energy rises fast, then crashes. Medieval sourdough bread digested slowly and provided steady energy. Modern bread also contains additives. Emulsifiers and industrial enzymes are used to improve softness and shelf life. These can irritate the gut and cause discomfort that people often blame on bread itself. There is also a loss of microbial diversity. Traditional sourdough contains many wild yeasts and bacteria. Commercial yeast is a monoculture, removing that natural balance. Even the wheat has changed. Modern wheat is often less nutritious, and many whole wheat breads are rebuilt after processing. On top of that, today's grain is commonly exposed to glyphosate-based herbicides, sometimes sprayed before harvest. Small residues can remain in the flour and may stress the gut and microbiome. Put together, modern bread digests too fast, disrupts digestion, and leaves people feeling inflamed. The difference isn't just nutritional, it's biological. To see just how much knowledge medieval bakers lost in the process, we need to look at the wisdom baked into every traditional loaf. Medieval bakers may not have understood it consciously, but they had mastered a process through generations. Sourdough was a self-contained food processing engine. Every spoonful of starter teemed with microbes that broke down gluten, neutralized phytic acid, transformed starch into slow-burning fuel, unlocked minerals like iron and zinc, produced natural acids to stabilize blood sugar, supported gut health, and even extended shelf life naturally. This wasn't just fermentation, it was pre-digestion. A medieval loaf was already halfway broken down before it ever reached your stomach, which is why it didn't cause the digestive issues so common with modern bread. The transformation happened in the dough, not in your gut. And because each village nurtured its own starter, every loaf carried a unique microbial signature. Bread wasn't just food, it was a living piece of the local ecosystem. Today, bread is standardized, predictable, sterile, and that uniformity came at a cost. The same trade-off we see in modern agriculture, modern weapons, even modern technology. Efficiency replaced complexity, speed replaced depth, and our bodies are left to feel the consequences. And all of this points to one thing modern bread is missing above all else: time. The missing ingredient. Modern bread isn't toxic. It's just out of sync with human biology. For thousands of years, humans evolved alongside whole grains, slow fermentation, diverse microbes, nutrient-rich flour, and minimal additives. This combination allowed our bodies to extract maximum nutrition while supporting gut health. Today, most bread offers the opposite: refined starches that spike blood sugar, fast-acting yeast that leaves gluten mostly intact, chemical conditioners, synthetic vitamins, minimal fiber, almost no fermentation, and poor digestibility. Your body hasn't changed, bread has. And when biology meets a food it wasn't designed for, you notice it: bloating, fatigue, hunger soon after eating. Modern bread isn't evil, it's simply incomplete. It lacks the one ingredient that made ancient bread powerful: time. Time to ferment, to pre-digest, to unlock nutrients and support your gut. Without it, bread has lost its natural harmony with the human body. But if we look back at medieval sourdough, we can see exactly how time worked its magic. If you could travel back to a medieval village and pick up a loaf of bread, you wouldn't call it artisanal, rustic, or gourmet. You'd simply notice how real it felt: dense, earthy, alive. And its nutritional power was staggering. Medieval sourdough was rich in B vitamins, high in essential minerals like iron and zinc, packed with fiber, slowly digested, and naturally blood sugar stabilizing. It supported gut health, was naturally preserved, deeply fermented, and completely free of chemicals or artificial additives. This wasn't a trend or a marketing tactic. No one labeled it healthy. It was simply how bread had been made for generations. The careful fermentation, the microbial diversity, and the slow traditional processes created a food that worked with the human body, not against it. Every bite was a balance of nutrition and digestibility, and that's why medieval sourdough bread endured, sustaining entire communities through harsh winters and long, laborious days. Centuries later, modern science is finally catching up to what medieval bakers knew all along, and it's proving that bread can still heal. Bread that can heal. Ironically, after a century of industrial shortcuts, modern science is finally catching up to what medieval bakers already knew instinctively. Nutrition research now praises sourdough for its superior digestibility. Microbiome studies highlight the remarkable diversity of bacteria it contains. Diabetes researchers confirm that it slows blood sugar spikes, while allergists point to fermentation as a way to reduce gluten sensitivity. In short, science is validating a process that humans perfected long before science existed. Medieval bread didn't disappear because it was ineffective. It disappeared because it was too slow to produce on an industrial scale. But that very slowness is what gave it its power. Bread didn't evolve because our bodies demanded something different. It evolved because industry demanded speed. And now, centuries later, we're starting to grasp something profound. The bread that built civilizations, nourished communities, and supported generations may also be the bread that can help repair the health and resilience of the ones struggling today. And that's why understanding the way bread was made centuries ago isn't just history. It's a lesson in how food can truly nourish and heal.